That was the week that was, as David Frost used to say. Oh, this past week, we saw the emergence of Dark Biden. We saw Biden being attacked for giving forgiveness to crushing student college debt on loans that they took out. We saw all the concerns about mental health and with gun violence and with the homelessness and with the effect on children during COVID. I have to tell you a personal story, and I will later on in the show. There is not one bed available in all of New York City in a psychiatric facility, in a psychiatric ward. Not one. It looks like they're going to appoint a special master, but it just came over the news just now that the FBI, in perusing the documents that were taken from Mar-a-Lago, said they found a couple of documents that might concern attorney-client privilege, and they're removing those. So we'll see if there's a special master. But on that night, when during the day, the FBI released the affidavit, it was a major news story, as every news channel and cable news channel and newspaper began to peruse what was in that affidavit. But I switched over to Tucker Carlson, and what was his top story? Hunter Biden. And that was followed by a former kickboxer who said he was censored on the internet for describing violence against women. And Tucker called him the most censored man in America. That was the top news story. And of course, maybe you don't know this. I mean, Albert, you never watch cable news, right?
Not lately, no, not in a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Albert Reinoso, the producer of Richard Bey Talk. Well, here's breaking news. The My Pillow man is now selling my coffee. That's right. I've heard that it tastes a little bit nutty. And on the cover is a picture of him carrying and waving the American flag. So now there is not only My Pillow, you can drink my coffee, which will keep you awake, so you won't need My Pillow. All right. Also during this week, after that redaction came out, and they did have to redact a lot of the things that were in the affidavit to protect the ongoing investigation. Don Jr., the mini-me Trump, responded with a tweet of his father that said, "Redact this." And what he put out was a big stripe along Trump's crotch area. Redact this. Now, I have to say, if Trump's gonads are that size, he better see a doctor because he has elephantiasis of the gonads. Now, of course, that's probably a little bit nicer way of saying "suck my dick," which is this the response people make when they are uncouth. Or he could have said "kiss my ass," but then again, he'd have to show Trump's gigantic rear end and buttocks that are just massive that we've seen in so many pictures. They try to hide it from us, but when he turns around, it's obvious. Then out in, so we had that thing referring to, once again, to Trump's penis. Then out in Arizona, you had Carrie Lake, who's running for governor, who talked about Trump had big dick energy. She called it BDE, but she said, you know what that means, big dick energy. So here we go. We're talking about the size of genitalia, the masculinity of some of these figures. I mean, Trump is almost 77 years old. I'm sure there is no big dick energy, or it's greatly diminished there. And that's what authoritarians try to do. They try to propagandize their virility. That's why during World War II, American wartime intelligence released the information that Adolf Hitler only had one testicle, leading to children like me singing this nursery rhyme. Hitler is a jerk. Hitler is a jerk. Mussolini bit his peenie. Now it doesn't work. So at the same time, they tried to cover up the fact that that FDR was in a wheelchair. And this week, a lot of people were concerned about the virility of Joe Biden, but we saw the emergence of fighting Joe Biden. Some people are calling it dark Biden because he's actually responded to some of the attacks and he's become more assertive. And his poll numbers are rising, possibly because of that. They rose during the last week. So Joe Biden said this: what we're seeing now is either the beginning or the death knell of extreme MAGA philosophy. It's not just Trump, it's the entire philosophy. It's like semi-fascism. Oh, the Republicans were so upset that he said that. Oh, no. How could he say that? It is. I have a complaint, Joe. It's not semi-fascism, it's fascism. When you have this kind of Nuremberg adulation, when you have an attack on the Capitol to try to overcome a democratic process and the peaceful transition of power, when you have people making excuses and in effect saying that Trump is above the law, you had Lindsey Graham just yesterday saying if Trump is indicted, there'll be riots in the streets from his followers. It's not semi-fascism. It is fascism. And if you want the best example of that, last week, the polls, or at least one poll, found that the number one issue for Americans going to the voting booth, it's not inflation, it's not gas prices, it's not the Green New Deal. The number one issue is protecting democracy. What are we protecting democracy from? We're protecting it from fascism. So the Republicans, they got their panties in a twist over Joe Biden saying the extreme elements of MAGA philosophy are semi-fascism. Come on. I mean, he also said that he respected conservative Republicans, separated them from this lawless group of people. And on the other hand, when Republicans attack, they don't hold back. Do you remember, what was it? Marxist liberal Reverend Warnock. Reverend Warnock was a Marxist radical Reverend Warnock. That was okay. Or Trump saying this. Take a look at this clip.
The Democrat Party has been completely taken over by socialists, Marxists, and far-left extremists. They embrace the policies of communist Cuba, socialist Venezuela. They want to end the American dream for Hispanic Americans. We love Hispanic Americans. Wow.
Come on. Oh, that's fine. But if you say the extreme elements of the MAGA group, and they are extreme, come on. The president is above the law. You try to overturn a democratic election. You use violence, for your political ends. You make excuses constantly for breaking the law. I mean, at the same time, Joe Biden did say, I respect conservative Republicans who believe in the Constitution, the peaceful transition of power, and the legality and fairness of democratic elections. People like Adam Kinzinger, who even went this far this weekend and said this.
And he said that in some cases she may have to help a Democrat win against sort of an anti-democracy Republican. Do you feel that's what you're going to be doing? over the next couple of years yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest issue, not everybody agrees with me, certainly in my party, and even Democrats that like to say things like, well, but you're still a conservative. Yeah, I'm a conservative. But the bottom line is the biggest threat right now to our country is democracy. And if you have Republicans that are running against even left-wing Democrats that believe in democracy and believe in voting, that person should be elected over somebody who basically would overthrow the will of the people and ultimately destroy this country. This country cannot survive outside of democracy.
All right. Well, oh, am I coming back? There we go. Okay. Well, there you have it. This is an election between democracy and semi-fascism, between democracy and the peaceful transition of power, and basically anti-democratic, fascist elements in a political party. That's what this election is about, really. And it's always been about that for me. Now, tuition forgiveness. Wait a minute. Republicans want me to pay my taxes to support teaching Catholic catechism in a public school. But tuition forgiveness is so terrible. All right, listen, the tuition forgiveness bill, all these people are saying, oh, well, I'm paying my taxes. No, you're not. Go look up what deficit financing is. Your taxes aren't, you're not going to get a tax bill that says, here's your bill for forgiving, a student loan of $10,000. That's not the way it works. Now, I have a problem with it too. I don't think that the cap should be at $125,000. If you have $125,000 a year in income, you should be able to pay the couple of hundred to pay off your loan. The cap should have been $50,000 or $75,000, something like that. But once again, Dark Biden came riding out in response, and the White House, as Republicans criticized this loan forgiveness, came out with a series of tweets. It wasn't just her, but Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of them. And this is it. She took out a PPP loan for $183,504, and it was forgiven. Now, she makes $174,000, actually more, a bit more, in Congress, $174,000. She wouldn't have qualified for a tuition forgiveness loan. And the majority of those PPP loans, which came during the Trump administration, I should remind you, the majority of them didn't go to workers. It didn't go to the payroll of workers. It went to shareholders. It went to creditors. It went to owners of businesses. And over 25 PPP loans worth $3.65 million went to Trump-owned properties. All right. And here's something else you may not know. Let me just get this correct here. Black borrowers, African Americans who have borrowed money to go to college, carry about $40,000 in federal student loan debt. And that's $10,000 more than the average for white students. Now, this was a week to go back into the vault and pull out that clip of an angry father confronting Elizabeth Warren about tuition forgiveness. You probably saw it. They reran it over and over again on the news. Take a look.
I just want to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back? Of course not. So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us that did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not anybody got screwed when we
Of
started.
course we did. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did, but I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter's worksheet is 10. So you're laughing. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing, and we get screwed.
I appreciate
That's
it.
all right.
Oh, right. He didn't want to have a discussion. He just wanted to. Who is that guy anyway? You know what? I spent maybe half an hour on the internet to find out who this guy was. Whether he really worked 2 jobs, whether he sent his daughter to college. There is not one place on the internet that identifies him or his plight. It reminds me of what happened during Obamacare. Remember all the people who were on Fox News saying, oh, if we have Obamacare, I'm going to die. I can't get my treatment, or my baby is, won't get the health care that he needs. What happened to all those people? Are they still alive? Did they die because of Obamacare? And now, due in large part to Obamacare, we have more people in America who are insured for health care than ever in the history of the country. But who is that guy? I mean, I can't say he's a phony. I can't say he's a plant. I don't have the information either way. But his performance, I don't know, doesn't exactly seem right to me. Okay, so he, even if it's true, he put his daughter through college and he had to pay for it. All right, I went to Yale Drama School. When I went there, the tuition was $8,000 a year. We had something called TPP, Tuition Postponement Plan, which I forget the amount, but it was a minuscule amount that you paid out of your yearly salary. You had to submit your tax returns every year, and it was like 0.03% of your income for the year that you would pay back for the loan. Eventually, they forgave all the loans that they had there. Oh, was that fair to all the people, who had taken out loans and paid them back? Well, tuition at Yale Drama School is now $32,800 a year. It's a 3-year program. Figure it out. It's close to 100 G's. David Geffen, the music mogul, the billionaire, he said he would donate $150 million to the school if they change the name to the Geffen School of Drama from the Yale School of Drama. But anyway, students now don't have to pay any tuition to go to Yale Drama School. Does that make all the others, the person who paid last year or the year before, are they suckers now? Another thing was when I was at Yale, and I never had realized this, I finally met the children of the ultra wealthy. You know what? I know this is going to sound strange. I'd never known what a prep school was. I went to a public school in Far Rockaway. I never knew what a trust fund was. But in order to save money, I became an advisor to the undergraduate students, and I got free board and free meals on campus. And I met these kids, and let me tell you something. They were nice people. They weren't villains. These children with the names like Garrett, Buffy, and some of them these names I'd never even heard before. And they talked about the country club. But do you know that about 30% of the students at Yale, now this is undergrad, they get in because their wealthy parents got in. Because their wealthy, even grandparents, donated money to the school. Is that fair? All right. So Biden, one Republican said, they compared Biden to the Joker, the evil, mad villain in the Batman movies, that he's driving around throwing money out of the car to his mob of people, doing it to get votes. All right. Now I'm going to move on to something that's more personal. As some of you know, I have raised a young man from the age of 2.5. I've helped his mother to raise him. And for certain periods of time, he was with me for an extended period of time. And as I left New York, I go there every month and a half and spend 2 or 3 weeks, to keep an eye on him. He's been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. Now, during the last week, he needed to go to the psychiatric emergency room. Now, he's not violent. He's not a threat to people. I've never seen him be violent. I've seen him get angry, but not violent. So he went to the psychiatric emergency room, and I was told there are no beds in any psychiatric ward in the city. There is not one bed available in all the 5 boroughs. With all the talk about gun violence being a mental health issue, the homeless being a mental health issue, children suffering from mental health crisis because of COVID, there is not one bed available in any psychiatric ward in any hospital in the city. He had to be sent 2 hours out of the city to Suffolk County. That was inconceivable to me, how that could happen. Now, I watched the movie Michael Clayton recently, and there's a lawyer. Is it Jim Broadbent, the actor? It's a really terrific English actor. And at one point, he has sort of a psychotic break, and he starts releasing information about the illegalities committed by his law firm. And George Clooney, who plays Michael Clayton, says, listen, you need to take your medication. You're having a psychotic break. I'm going to call a hospital and have you taken there. And the other actor says, as you well know, counselor, I cannot be kept in a mental institution unless I am an immediate danger to myself or to others, an imminent danger. So he can't be taken away under the law. At least that's in New York State. But in the 1980s, Ed Koch tried to change that law, the mayor. He helped to create a 28-bed room at Bellevue, and he announced he would forcibly be taking the homeless off the street. Anyone who exhibited self-neglect, and their self-neglect could become life-threatening in the foreseeable future. The first person they picked up was a woman named Joyce Brown, who went by the name on the street, Billie Boggs. You may remember this. She went to the ACLU, and the ACLU went to court to fight for her release. I'll tell you what eventually happened to her after this clip. But I had Joyce Brown on my TV show, a.k.a. Billie Boggs, interviewing her during that period of time, as well as Norman Siegel from the ACLU. Take a look at this.
Our host, Richard Bey.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. One of the most controversial issues facing our city recently in this winter, we're going to be talking about that this morning. Her name is Joyce Brown, but throughout the controversy, she has been known as Billie Boggs. She was the first person to be picked up under Mayor Koch's plan to round up homeless men and women who appear to be a danger to themselves or to others. If they're found to have psychiatric problems, they would be hospitalized, even if they wanted to return to the streets. Now, as I said, she was the first person to be picked up, evaluated, held against her will. And after 84 days in a much-publicized court fight, Joyce Brown was set free again. Now, with respect and empathy for my guest this morning, I must also say that the media, and that includes us, has made her something more than just a free individual. She is, I guess, ironically, the first homeless celebrity. I'm not kidding. Her appearances have stirred up empathy, anger, encouragement, frustration. The New York Post said passers-by who recognized her from news stories applauded her on the streets. John Rowland, the Channel 5 news anchor, who used to walk by her on the street corner, was suspended from his position after an emotional confrontation on the air. And Phil Donahue bought her a new outfit and a new hairdo last week for her appearance on nationwide television. She's become a focal point for all of our frustrations about America's greatest shame, the homeless. Please welcome Joyce Brown to People in Talk. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. You know, there are a lot of people who are upset with you and frustrated with you and feel that the city and the mayor were just trying to help you. They feel that it's somewhat ungrateful. They were trying to better your position, possibly save your life. How do you view what the city and what Mayor Koch have done for you?
Mayor Koch and the city has done nothing for me. I was homeless. I was not insane. While I was hospitalized for 84 days, I did not receive treatment at all, be it medication or therapy. I am the same now as I was while I was on the streets. The only difference is I have clean clothes on, and my mental state of mind is the same. There are a lot of New Yorkers who have supported me during my struggle for freedom, and I thank all of them.
Weren't the motivations of the mayor, wasn't he trying to help you, though?
How can you help someone when you take away their freedom? He hurt me. My freedom was taken away from me. He violated my constitutional rights. I was behind lock and key, and I was hurt by the whole ordeal, and I'll never forget it. I've been scarred mentally.
This is, the city released a press account of your condition when you were picked up.
Yes.
These are some of the things that they said about you, how they described you. They said, she is dirty, disheveled, and malodorous. She urinates and defecates in her location. She is delusional, withdrawn, and unpredictable. She has a history of assaulting passers-by. She will tear up or burn dollar bills. Is that a valid description of your condition when you were picked up by the city?
And no, it's not. Yes, I did urinate and defecate on the street, but they said I defecated and urinated on myself. Yes, I did tear up money because the manner in which it was given to me, the person would throw it at me.
One of the more controversial interviews that occurred here in New York was a confrontation that occurred on the air on Channel 5 with news anchor John Rowland. Mm-hmm. He was suspended for his behavior during that newscast. We have a clip from that broadcast. Can we take a look at that?
Aren't you better off than you were 3 months ago?
I didn't receive any care while I was there.
You're not a better person than you were 3 months ago,
I'm the same person that I was 3 months ago.
You look a lot better to me.
Why? Because I have a clean sweater on that makes my mind better?
No, they can hear you right now. All right. What were you feeling during that interview with John Rowland? Were you offended by the things he was asking you?
Yes, I was. I had just been discharged a few hours earlier, and he attacked me. I thought he was going to ask questions such as, how do you feel to be a free woman, and what are you going to do with your life? And here he's saying to me, you're insane. I saw you several times, and you didn't know where you were, and it was an attack. And he did not handle himself in a professional manner. He was very unfair to me, and he should have been fired.
Does Mayor Koch owe you an apology as well?
Yes. I wouldn't accept it, but he definitely owes me one.
You gave an evaluation of Mayor Koch's behavior.
Yes.
What was that evaluation?
Personality disorder.
You think he has a personality disorder?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen him talk to different people, and he's loud, verbal, abusive at times, and for him to be a mayor of such a big city, he's not likable. He's argumentative, and his behavior, he looks wild to me when he's interviewing or being interviewed. He doesn't give the person a chance to ask some question, and so he called me paranoid schizophrenic, so I have a right to call him whatever I choose to.
At one point, the press was reporting your name as Ann Smith. At one point, you were referred to as Billie Boggs. Mm-hmm. Where did these other names come from?
Oh, they're street names.
Why did you pick Billie Boggs? It was after Bill Boggs, the talk show host?
Yes, I liked his show. I like your show. So I'll be now...
Richie Bey? Rachel Bey?
Risha Bey.
Risha Bey. Norman Siegel has appeared a number of times on our show. He's the executive director of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and Maureen McLeod is an attorney with the Health and Hospitals Corporation. She represented Bellevue Hospital in the Joyce Brown. Now, whether Joyce has a mental health problem or not is something that the psychiatrists and the doctors will determine. But let me ask you, there are people on the streets who do have mental health problems. What about those people who can't help themselves, who might be a danger to themselves? Isn't the legal action that you've taken a danger to them?
No, because if somebody meets the existing law, mentally ill and in immediate danger to themselves or others, and need immediate hospitalization, we're not going to oppose that as a policy issue. We oppose this program because it went beyond the existing law. The mayor adopted by mayoral fiat a new standard that if you're a danger in the reasonable foreseeable future, our position is that's not what the law provides for.
All right, Maureen, you have been quoted as saying the lawyers won and the patient lost here. What do you mean by that?
I meant that a great deal of legal machinations were gone through. But in fact, this woman who we could have helped even more, she did benefit from 84 days of hospitalization.
How did you help her in Bellevue?
Well, she was cleaned up, she was fed, she was provided medical care, she was in a supervised setting. When she started getting explosive...
Medical care? What do you mean by medical care?
Well, she was seen by our doctors.
She wasn't given any drugs.
No, she wasn't, because we went to court, and after approximately 80 days, the court said that she was competent to refuse treatment, and we think that that's unfortunate. This is not the person who we picked up. The person we picked up had been living in the street for over a year, had been yelling racial obscenities to black men. She was tearing up money in a ritualistic fashion. She was urinating and defecating.
So what caused the change? Soap and water and a new set of clothes?
84 days in a hospital. When she was explosive in the hospital and started yelling at people, there were people around her to stop her from getting even more explosive.
Okay, of course, not all homelessness is related to mental health issues, but much of it is. And now, 30 years later, the problem not only still exists, it seems to me it's exploding everywhere. And in New York City, there is not one bed available in a psychiatric ward for treatment, for removing or people from the streets, or even helping those who have a psychotic break. Not one? Come on. All right. So Donald Trump has a solution. His solution is, he's just been talking about it on the campaign trail, to create tent cities outside of the urban centers and move all the homeless into tent cities. Can you imagine the hell that would be like? Also, the legality of it. All right, mental health, it's still a big issue, and it seems like we're failing at our solutions to it. Over 30 years. What happened to Joyce Brown? Well, she was all right for a while. She went to work for the ACLU as a receptionist, but then her psychosis reappeared. She ended up back on the streets. She ended up filthy and disheveled and cursing at people. And ironically, at one point, she was quoted as saying that she wanted to see Donald Trump, that only Donald Trump could help her. Unfortunately, Joyce Brown, she ended up then in a residential facility for the aged, and she passed away in 2005. All right. Thank you for joining me once again on Richard Bey Talk. And remember, if you enjoy the podcast, tell others, share it on Facebook, and subscribe. This way, you will never miss an episode of this program. Thank you for joining me. And as always, all my best. Take care.